holds so much energy towards Kundalini awakening, and it also holds a lot of energy towards spiritual enlightenment. But at the same time, what we also have to realize with the crown chakra is it really talks about our beliefs and how our faith in ourselves, our sovereignty, our sense of self-governance, and really that place of co-creation, like that place of being in your co-creative power. So I think while we often associate the crown chakra with Kundalini awakening and with spiritual enlightenment, there's also this element that isn't really talked about a lot, which is like our self-belief, like our place of sovereignty, our place of co-creation. And I really think that the crown chakra really inhabits that a lot, because it allows us to really speak about the expansion piece and really learning about how soul is about, we're expanding our soul. So when we think about the chakras, and I love the chakras. I have been studying the chakras for a very long time. And one thing that's really cool is when we think about the chakras, we also have to realize this concept of expanding versus contracting energy. So when we're expanding, we're like expanding our energy outward into the world. We're radiating that energy outward. So it's kind of just like the concept of breathing, you know, with the inhale and the exhale. Like when we're contracting, we're pulling back energy. And so we do this a lot in our chakras all the time. So like when we're contracting energy, we're shrinking our energy. And when we're expanding our energy, we're expanding that outward. So it's kind of like this beautiful dance of giving and receiving, really. And so when we have contraction happening in our energy body, what's really going on is our chakras are shrinking. And instead of being like overcompensating or overactive, instead that chakra is contracting. And you will notice when you're in contraction, because you'll be in fear or fight or flight modes, you'll be in this energy of like really feeling flighty, really feeling like low. You can feel very like dense energy. So when we think about energy as a concept, it's actually really cool to see that it's like this concept of giving and receiving, contracting and expanding. And I think the crown chakra really helps us really bring this into like illustration with understanding how when we're contracting our energy, we're staying limited, we're staying small. And when we stay small in our energy, we're really kind of pulling back, we're contracting our energy. So it's kind of like, I always think of it as the concept of a light bulb, because like when we're pulling back, you know, we're dimming our light. And when we're expanding, we're radiating that light outward. So what does this really have to do with the crown chakra? Well, the crown chakra teaches us how to expand beyond the limited mind. And while the third eye in the crown really helps us like show this, it allows us to kind of expand beyond our barriers. And what I love about really diving into the crown is it's about embodying higher self. So it's about embodying our highest self energy. And when we embody our highest self energy, we're in this place of our highest potentiality, our entelechy. Our entelechy is the point of realization of higher potential, the point of, it's really like a form of enlightenment, but it's a point of enlightenment where we're bringing that into our bodies and we're bringing it into the physical world. So when we think of this concept of embodying higher self, it's not just about Kundalini awakening anymore. It's about Kundalini descension. And that descension point is us bringing higher self, higher consciousness into the physical world. And this is something I love to teach on because it's where we're taking the breadcrumbs that we have from a spiritual awakening experience, and now we're starting to apply those back to our lives. And as we apply that back to our lives, we're opening up the crown chakra because we're embodying our highest self energy and choosing to bring that into our physical world, which is really the concept of oneness. And when we think about oneness, it's about expanding into the unified field of consciousness. It's about expanding into the unified field of the quantum reality. And so when we think in these concepts of contracting versus expanding, and if I'm like really out there, you know, just like pop a question in. I love questions, so don't be afraid to ask. So when we think about this concept of expanding versus contracting, right? We have to see it as like when we're contracting, we're limiting the mind. And when we're expanding into the quantum reality. So the crown chakra is really powerful because we can start to see that when we're starting to open up our crown, we're opening up into the quantum reality. We're opening up beyond the Newtonian paradigm of cause and effect and into the quantum experience, which is oneness, which is quantum entanglement, which is this energy of really tapping into our interconnection of everything. So when we think of this idea of like opening the crown chakra and really opening up the mind, what is actually going on is we're opening up our perception to understand the interconnection of it all. So it's like we're understanding oneness from a different level of the same staircase, basically. So it's like if you were to just break this down so that it's really easy to understand, it's like when we're contracted, we're like only on like the bottom steps of the staircase and we're not able to fully see the entire scope. But as we start to climb those stairs and we change our perspective to move out of duality into unity consciousness, we're now changing our perspective to be in the energy of higher truth, higher consciousness. And so higher self is the same thing. It's all kind of interplayed with different words, basically. But our higher self is connected to the quantum reality. So the crown chakra is all about expanding into this. And what I find so fascinating is because we think it's about this mystical moment of enlightenment or this mystical moment of ascension. And the reality is ascension is happening now. Awakening is happening now. These are concepts that we are literally unifying from the mind-body connection and bringing it back into our physical world. So playing into the crown chakra is really about realizing this sense of oneness, this sense of duality into unity, and learning to cultivate that self-belief within yourself that generates this concept of co-creation. So we realize that we're co-creating from the quantum reality. We're co-creating from our expansion. So when I really think about the crown chakra, I think about this concept of expansion and how, like, you know, growing up, we're always taught to contract. We're really taught to play small, to not, you know, to hold back, to let ourselves just, you know, not say what we need to say. And that shows in our chakras. And as we develop habits in our chakras, that's really what is going on, is we're allowing ourselves to be in a contracted energy versus an expansive energy. So one thing I really like to say about in terms of the crown chakra is it's really about seeing like, well, where do you fall in terms of your belief with yourself? Because that's what is going to determine if there needs to be healing in the crown chakra or not. Is it's all about self-belief and faith and divinity and really tuning into that essence of, are you choosing to embody your highest self? So basically, the crown chakra really helps illustrate this energy of expansion and contraction. And it's really about seeing that when we're in this place of really getting clear about how we allow ourselves to be in this energy of expansion, we're no longer limiting ourselves. So it's really fascinating how when we're in this place of expanding our consciousness, we're opening up the crown to higher perceptions of reality. And so what I think is so cool and fascinating about the crown is we have to realize that it's really this concept of belief, like self-belief versus disbelief. And when it comes to really working with that crown energy, it's about understanding that we are either moving in disbelief or self-belief. So, and we can apply this easily to like manifestation work, and how you're either in disbelief about those manifestations or you're in self-belief about those manifestations. And that starts to play into your reality and what you are attracting, you know, as the inner, so the outer. And the inner creates the outer. And as the inner creates the outer, that crown is that critical piece on our manifestation journey that teaches us to expand or contract, to be in belief or disbelief. And I think what I really love about the crown chakra is it plays into this energy of polarity and how to move beyond the sense of polarity, like the sense of duality, and the sense of, you know, ego versus soul, good versus bad, you know, devil versus Jesus. And like, you know, it's the same concept that we've heard all along, but it's just really about understanding how are we viewing it? How are we actually viewing it? Because it all goes back to that same element of spirituality and moving into this energy of the divine self, higher self. So we might have different names for the same thing, but it all goes back to that same concept, which is really higher truth. And what is higher truth but higher consciousness? So higher consciousness is this element of seeing into oneness. It's this element of moving beyond duality, moving beyond limitation, moving into the level of expansion. So I think it's interesting, but it's like expansion, expansion, expansion. It's like higher self is like, you must talk about expansion. But when I think about the crown chakra, it's really fascinating because we don't often see it this way, right? We don't often see it so simply as like duality into unity consciousness, polarity in, you know, light versus shadow. What is the interwovenness of light versus shadow? It's the fact that light and shadow is connected. Light, you know, your shadows reveal your light, and so forth. So it's this very intriguing concept of when we are tuning into our crown chakra, we're actually tuning into our beliefs, our faith, our level of disbelief, or what we don't believe about ourselves. Like, it's this really fascinating concept of like, how do you see yourself as a co-creator? Like, how do you believe in yourself? How do you not believe in yourself? So it's like there's this element of attachment or detachment. And there's this element of emotional attachment or emotional detachment. And what does that actually look like? What does that actually feel like? And so when we think that we're working with the crown chakra, we think it's all about spiritual enlightenment. But you know, spiritual enlightenment is just like a fucking buzzword. Like, it's just a complete buzzword. So what does that actually mean? And it's really about asking ourselves, what is beyond duality? What is beyond polarity? And how can we move from the limited mind into the expansive mind? How can we expand our consciousness from this dualistic perspective into a unified perspective, into unity consciousness? And that all goes back to like really scientific terms where it's like, well, how can we move into the quantum reality? Because when we're in the limited mind, we're in like a cause and effect paradigm. We're in a cause and effect world where we believe this equals this, and no matter what, this equals this. And what we're doing is we're in a fixed mindset. So the real question is, when we are learning to heal and expand the crown, what we're actually doing is we're learning to expand beyond the limited mind. And I think this is so cool because, like, you know, personal development and manifestation teachers talk about this, but I doubt hardly anyone is saying that it's about the crown chakra. So when we think about the crown chakra in terms of manifestation and co-creation, it's really about choosing to expand beyond the limited mind and choosing to expand beyond the barriers of the mind. What I have to say in summary about the crown is it's about embodying higher consciousness. It's about embodying higher self. And when we choose to embody higher self, we're moving beyond the limited mind, the fixed mindset. And when we do that on a consistent basis is when we really start to change our results, because we're no longer in this place of duality. We're no longer in this place of only seeing from that one level of the staircase. And instead we're choosing to see from the entire set of the stairs. We're choosing to see our life from the top of the stairs, looking downward and seeing the different perceptions of reality. So what I love is it's like the crown chakra is about expansion, and like the third eye is about vision. So it's like our third eye shows us the infinite possibilities of the world around us, and the crown teaches us how to embody those visions. It teaches us how to embody those perceptions. How can we step into those beliefs? How can we step into that sense of unity consciousness?